Please keep this part in.
We'll keep all of this in, but let me
Don't cut this part.
Let me push back on that. Let me push back on that
because
you have
nonsense.
Elon,
This interview proves exactly why we don't trust British mainstream media, because whenever you talk about protecting Britain, they're quick to label you as far right. And we're going to break down this viral interview bit by bit, but make sure you stay to the end to see the exact moment that her argument completely collapses. Let's watch.
You support not just the populist right, but the far right. In fact, very fringe parties in some countries.
No, I support the normal people.
Okay.
What you call the far right, falsely.
You think is the normal person. Okay.
Yes. Literally, you could go back 10 or 15 years, and these policies were completely normal. In fact, one of the tricks that I think is funny. One of the things that's quite funny is to like take a speech from Obama and Hillary, and then go to someone and say, who's sort of on the sort of what I call the lunatic left, and say, what do you think of the speech by Trump? I'm like, oh wow, he's the worst person ever. Actually, that was a speech by Obama, or actually, that was a speech by Hillary.
I agree. No, I agree that the center of gravity in this country has shifted. Certainly, the Democratic Party shifted to the left. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people like Rupert Lowe. I'm talking
right,
about
please.
People.
It's actually just normal people. It's just normal people. It's just normal people. And and here are the principles. And tell me which of these sound terrible. That we should have secure borders. That we should have safe cities. That we should have sensible spending. Which of those three are far right fringe?
No,
and I would like to just admonish you and the media for the absurd characterization of the far right. It is false and misleading and nonsense.
So she's already conceded that, the center of gravity has shifted. That would mean then that people like Rupert Lowe would have just been considered normal people like 20, 30 years ago with normal views. So if their views have remained constant, you labeling them as far right doesn't mean the problem is with them, but it's clearly something you're doing in order to control.
Please keep this part in.
We'll keep all of this in, but let me
Don't cut this part.
Let me push back on that. Let me push back on that
because
you have
nonsense.
Elon, you have what is it? Close to 250 million followers on X.
Yeah,
you say things like,
popular guy.
Quote, civil war in Britain is inevitable. Just a question of when.
On the current trend, yes.
I mean, when were you last in the UK?
A few years ago.
Exactly. So I live there. I'm there the whole time. That is nonsense.
You live a cloistered existence.
No, I don't actually. And
she went to a 10K per term boarding school in Shropshire. She went to study at Oxford. She got her first job at the Ministry of Finance in Poland by a connection from her lecturer. And she's trying to tell us that she understands ordinary British people. Come on.
The numbers also disprove what you say.
What numbers?
All the numbers about crime. London is a much safer city than any city in the United States. Violent crime in the UK is not where you think it is. In fact, it's coming down. You have painted, and because you have so many followers, so many Americans believe it, a kind of view that Europe and the UK are kind of, overrun with terrifying Muslim immigrants. There's rape on every corner. There's a sort of civilizational destruction.
I haven't said any of those things. If you have a large and rapidly growing group of people whose beliefs are antithetical to Western beliefs, at some point there will be a reckoning. That they will try to implement their views, and those who oppose it will oppose it, and that's what you call civil war. And obviously, this is the trend. And you absolutely do live in a cloistered existence. And if you'd like, we can go on a tour of Britain.
Sure. I'd be very happy to come on a tour of Britain.
And you will see for yourself.
You come see my country that I live in all the time, and you haven't been to a few years ago.
I've been there literally.
When she wants to act as if the UK is so safe, London is so safe, it's her country. Let me tell you about London. I lived in London. My two oldest children were born on the same street that my brother's best friend was killed. And we would drive to church every single Sunday and pass his mural, past the memorial dedicated to him every single week. So when she talks about visiting her country is clearly not the same country that the majority of us have to live in.
Literally 100 times.
But when was the last time?
Literally a few years ago.
You know why this exercises me? Because you have really shaped opinion about the UK. And so many Americans I come across and I have conversations with, and and I just had one the other day along the order of, oh, London's such a dangerous place. How can you know? There are sort of grooming gangs everywhere. There's violence everywhere. This is a picture that people get from things that you post or that are posted on X. And for example, you're posting for, what was it, 48 hours of Citizen Vigilante.
People have their own eyes, right? Like the media in the UK always say, the problem is not the problem. It's you talking about the problem. In fact, the problem doesn't exist. You talking about this problem is the real issue. This is why we don't trust you.
That film, which, paints a dystopian, I've watched it.
Yes.
It was not fun. I watched it yesterday. It's not a very good movie. But it also paints a dystopian picture of Europe. And it glorifies vigilante violence. It glorifies the murdering of a Muslim immigrant family. I honestly think that it is irresponsible for you to put that up on X.
I think that it's a movie, and it's worth watching.
I bet she would have had absolutely no problem with the movie Adolescence that villainized white boys all over the place and completely, like, if you remember the film, completely glossed over the fact that a young black girl punched a white kid in the face. And it's like, that caused no problems whatsoever. The selective outrage is very telling.
Are you anti-Muslim?
I'm against having if people are coming to a country with antithetical views. I am against that.
As you should.
I'm against that. I'm against. I'm against rape and murder.
Yeah.
I'm against the imposition of rules and laws that are contrary to what we've come to accept in the West.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a crying shame that the sort of traditional media, like you, don't recognize this.
Around 50% of mosques in the UK are connected to what's called the Deobandi sect, which is a group of Islam that specifically hates Britain and hates the West. They've literally had people come and do preaching tours in the UK of people who are former associates of Osama bin Laden. Like this is what we're talking about. And the media refusing, in fact, calling you racist if you even point out these things is incredible. This sums up modern political Britain, right? The interviewer, Zanny Susan Minton Beddoes, again, I told you before, she grew up in Shropshire, which is like 90% white, very rural, very farming area. She went to Moreton Hall School. This is the school. These are their term fees. 10K per year for year 3. 10K per term, in year 3. And then she went on to go and work. She went to study at Oxford and then went to go and work at the Ministry of Finance in her first job because of her connections. So someone like her who's extremely privileged and is completely isolated from the problems that people have to face on the streets, the problems that people have to face if you live near one of these asylum hotels, if you live in one of these areas that have been flooded with people who don't love this country and bring all sorts of ridiculous behaviors, then she's completely guarded from all of that. But it's here to tell you that the problem is not the problem. The problem is people like Elon Musk making you think that there's a problem. Don't believe your eyes. Don't believe your ears. Just believe The Economist. Believe the mainstream media. Unfortunately, we're no longer believing that. No one's buying that, which is exactly why they're constantly doing more and more and more to try and silence voices, independent voices like ours and channels on YouTube like ours, so that they can control the narrative. But we will not let them win. And to make sure that they don't win, make sure that you subscribe to this channel. And if you want to see another video of someone being brilliantly exposed live on TV, check out the video on your screen. I'll see you there. Peace and blessings.